Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, a prominent MLB insider has made his World Series prediction, and he has the Philadelphia Phillies winning it all. Is that going to be true? We sure hope so. Plus, a checkup on the starting pitchers and who's thrown, the one starting pitcher that hasn't, now worried we should be about Taijuan Walker's knee issue. And opening day is 22 days away. Who's the best number 22 in Phillies history? We'll pick that as well on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're consuming us in podcast form today, please make sure you're rating and reviewing and leaving 5 stars wherever you consume the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube and haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the YouTube. Really appreciate that. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, it's all in lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Let's jump into the big news of the day surrounding the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, it's not exactly news. It's kind of a prediction that it is a prediction that may or may not happen, but it's very rare that you see guys that are big-time reporters for the game of baseball come out with predictions that are based on just random nothingness. It's rare that these guys miss significantly. They might not get everything right, but more often than not, they're close. And Buster Olney, who, if you know anything about baseball, you've seen Buster Olney's work. He's been covering the sport for what feels like a billion years, my whole life, and the guy still does great work. He put out this tweet earlier today. I'll read this verbatim. World Series pick from here. Phillies over the Yankees. The Phillies are very driven after squandering a great shot last October when they were the best team. An improved defense, a healthy Harper, and ownership/front office committed to adding whatever is needed during the season. Isn't that kind of what I've been preaching to you guys all offseason? But anyway, it's not my turn to toot my own horn. It's all of our turn to be excited that Buster Olney, a guy who knows a lot about baseball, is picking the Philadelphia Phillies to be the World Series champions. Now let's break it down and see if the reasons he stated in his tweet are legitimate. First, let's start with the matchup, Phillies over the Yankees. I would love that. Now, I think the Yankees have kind of turned into a choke job organization. So I don't know how realistic it is that they're there, but they're a super talented team. Soto's there now. Like, they've got unbelievable talent. Baltimore's really good. They're in a tough division, so we'll see. But bottom line is that would be sweet revenge because the Phillies' last World Series of that 2000s team, 2008 World Series champions, 2009, they lost to the New York Yankees. Obviously, the most recent is the loss to the Astros 2 years ago, but the Yankees, we owe them one. So that would be nice to see. Phillies are very driven after squandering a great shot last October when they were the best team. I've said this over and over and over again, and every time I say it, Diamondbacks fans, Rangers fans, Astros fans, they rip me apart. They're like, best team? You lost in the NLCS. How are you the best team? The best team was the Rangers. The second best team was the Diamondbacks, and that's not how this works. Last year, the best team in baseball was the Atlanta Braves. They just were. That was the overall best team. They didn't perform when the lights were brightest. They got sent home by the Philadelphia Phillies for the second straight year. We were very happy about that. That means that the Phillies were the best team remaining. I firmly believe that. Buster Olney clearly believes that. The Phillies believe that. They're better than the Diamondbacks. They're better than that version of the Astros. They're better than the Rangers. They were a juggernaut team in the postseason last year, and they fell short because they went cold in the worst point of the season. That's no disrespect to the Diamondbacks or to the Rangers or to the Astros. But the Phillies were already the best team left last year, and they just didn't get the job done. But that's why I've always been so comfortable with them running it back this offseason, because they have the talent. They're an insanely built team. Great offense, great rotation, great bullpen. Top to bottom, they were really good. Their issue last year was bench depth. You go get Whit Merrifield. You had to re-sign some of your big pitchers to make sure you continue to have a great rotation. Nolan and Wheeler both getting new contracts this offseason. Like, it's awesome. So I totally agree with what Buster Olney's saying there. And improved defense. This is one I'll debate. Improved defense. Now, Harper should be good at first base. Like, really good. But there are times where he is still not used to the position. There's a feel thing. And you actually saw it if you watched the Phillies play the Orioles yesterday. In the ninth inning, one of the Phillies minor leaguers, it hit like a chopper off the plate. The pitcher fielded it. The first baseman was too aggressive trying to field the ball. It left first base uncovered. Bryce Harper's done that a couple times already, not in spring training, but I'm talking about last year, where he was kind of just caught in no man's land going after a ball that was Bryson Stott's at second base, and now nobody's covering, or the pitcher has to make a difficult play on a coverage at first base. So, yeah, do I think Bryce Harper is a better fielder than Rhys Hoskins? Yes. But I don't know that he's used to the position enough that it's not going to feel a little clunky at times this year. And the Phillies will be fine. I don't know that they've improved yet at first base. They will, but I don't know if they've improved yet, depending on how Harper looks. Trey Turner had a really bad year at shortstop defensively. I imagine he's going to be better. Rojas was already up with the team last year. If you're looking at it that, you're going to have Martian left and Rojas in center, as opposed to Schwarber in left and Martian center, then the defense is hugely improved. But ultimately, you got kind of the same roster as you finished the season with last year. So I don't think the defense will be vastly different from what we're used to as Phillies fans. It'll be vastly different from what it looked like at the start of last season. So a little clarifier there, at least in my opinion, on Buster Olney's thoughts on the defense. Let's move on to the next part. A healthy Harper. This has been a huge conversation, right? Bryce Harper had a really solid year last year after missing a month and a half of the season to start, and then not being himself for another month and a half. There were 3 months out of the season where Bryce Harper was not Bryce Harper. He either wasn't playing due to Tommy John surgery recovery, or he was playing and he was still feeling out how to get back to his old self. So you have a healthy, motivated Bryce Harper who the last time he was healthy for a full season, and I don't even know, was he healthy for the entirety of 2021? I feel like he got banged up a little bit in there. Anyway, 2022, you had the issue with his thumb, where he gets hit by the Blake Snell pitch up and in. He misses like a month for that. Comes back, he's a monster. 2023, obviously, you have the return from Tommy John. And he had that UCL issue in 2022 as well. But he's working back from that. In 2021, he might have been banged up slightly, but that was his healthiest season in recent memory. He was the NL MVP. So, yeah, a healthy Harper is going to make a boatload of difference for the Philadelphia Phillies, a team that already won 90 games last year without him being at 100% for a lot of the season, and without Trey Turner being at 100% production for a lot of the season. So throw Trey Turner in there too, because he's going to have a much better season. He just has to. It's almost impossible for him to play worse than he did the first 3 to 4 months of last year's season. And then an ownership / front office committed to adding whatever is needed during the season. That's the last bit of Buster Olney's tweet where he picks the Phillies to win the World Series. Okay. This is why we should have been fine with the offseason from Jump Street. This is another thing that I've kind of been trying to preach to the fan base. And you have to take your medicine when it comes to this. I know it's not ideal. You want to make the splashy, flashy moves. You want Blake Snell. You want Jordan Montgomery. You want Yamamoto, even though the Phillies committed an insane amount of money to that. You want bullpen changes. Bullpen's already pretty darn good. Here's what's important, right? We know that at the trade deadline, John Middleton, Dave Dombrowski, Sam Fuld, they're all on the same page. They have gone all in. After the next 2 seasons, you're going to be at a significant cap disadvantage. you're going to be looking at Zach Wheeler's extension kicking in, Aaron Nola's contract weighing heavy, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, their contracts weighing heavy, especially if Harper gets an extension. You have a 2-year great window to win the World Series, and then maybe past that, you'll have a chance where young players come up and make something happen. But 2 years is the target. This is one of two opportunities, one of two trade deadlines before you get significantly hamstrung by contracts you've handed out to players who can help you win now. So that means that they're going to be super aggressive at the trade deadline. So for all those people who are like, why didn't they sign Montgomery? Why didn't they sign Snell? They need more bullpen help. They need more starting help. First off, they don't. I just flat out think you're wrong in your evaluation of the team. Are more good players good? Yes. Do they need them? No. But if you get to the trade deadline and the Philadelphia Phillies, let's say Christopher Sanchez has been terrible, it's just absolute stunk, cannot pitch him, you need another top-level starter. The Phillies are going to be as aggressive as any team in baseball to go out there and get guys they need to make a World Series push. They just are. Last year, they were somewhat aggressive. The year before, somewhat aggressive. Those years, Noah Syndergaard, Brandon Marsh, Edmundo Sosa, David Robertson, Michael Lorenzen. Like, you're bringing in guys that you feel can really help you out. And all of those guys were pretty darn solid for the Philadelphia Phillies, at least in the roles they were expected to play. They might not have been home runs, but they weren't strikeouts. And the Phillies are going to be aggressive. So breaking down Buster Olney's tweet, I totally get where he's coming from. And this is what I've been trying to say, right? It's good to be validated in my evaluation of the Philadelphia Phillies and their potential ceiling this year. I look at it and I say, okay, well, this team has everything. And they're motivated. And they are playoff proven. They know how to play in October. Will they win it all this year? I don't know. Buster Olney doesn't know. But if you're picking the Phillies to win the World Series this year, I don't think anyone should call you crazy. That's for all those reasons we just laid out. So what this means is we should be super happy about the offseason, what the team has, what we're going to be watching this year. Everything about the Philadelphia Phillies is positive right now. Well, mostly everything. Coming up next, we're going to talk about a knee issue for Taijuan Walker and look at what's going on with the starting pitchers. I got a very interesting question in the YouTube comments recently that I want to address when it comes to the starting pitchers and also just the philosophy on how you handle spring training from a pitching and managerial perspective. So we'll get into that coming up as we continue Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Prize Picks, our newest sponsor and the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Super easy. And instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks and people who do this for a living, that probably you don't want to go up against them. You just want to go up against the numbers. And it makes it so much easier. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. It might be tournament season. It's coming up. Or you might be looking at the playoffs and the fight for home court and seeding. Well, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Let me tell you a little bit about what I like tonight. So, not great advice yesterday for me. I would have lost on Prize Picks, but that's just because of my stupidity. I told you to look at the Sixers and Tyrese Maxey and Ben Simmons and some bets on them, or some selections on them, rather, I should say. And neither of those guys played. Well, the Sixers have the Grizzlies tonight. Much needed win for the Sixers. I'm looking at Kelly Oubre, who had 30 points last night, and I'm saying I'm going to take his over in points. I'm looking at Tobias Harris, who had an okay night but needs to step up. I'm taking his over in points. The Grizzlies stink. The Sixers need this win. That's what I would look at in Prize Picks. So go ahead and check it out. I mean, it's such an easy app. The interface is great. You just pick over or under on stats like points or rebounds or assists, all that kind of stuff. It's very easy to do. It's a great way to win some extra cash. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, you download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get a first deposit match up to $100. It's absolutely the best. So go ahead and check out Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's just that easy. All right, let's talk about the starting pitchers for the Philadelphia Phillies and what they've been doing this offseason. There was a little report that came out like yesterday, earlier on in the week, that's trying to say the Phillies were never interested in Blake Snell. I believe there might have been points where they kicked the tires. I don't know. It's true that they've never been interested, but I never saw the fit for Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery to come here. So I didn't truly understand that to begin with. It seems like the Philadelphia Phillies are pretty set with their starting rotation, being Wheeler and Nola as their aces. I want to say Wheeler is their number one, but I have a feeling that as with the past, decade of Phillies baseball, Aaron Nola is going to be the opening day starter again. We'll see how that plays out. But Wheeler and Nola as your aces. They're your 1A, 1B, however you want to stack that up. I'd put Wheeler first. The Phillies are probably going to give Nola the ball first. Oh, well. Ranger Suarez is your 3. Taijuan Walker is your 4. Christopher Sanchez is your 5. That's how the rotation is going to set up for the Philadelphia Phillies this year. It just is. I don't see that changing unless there's a major injury or anything like that. I don't see that as an issue. Now, the question that I was asked before we get into this Taijuan Walker knee thing was, why is it that some starters are thrown twice, some starters are thrown no times? And I got this question like end of last week. And what's with the minimal use for some of these guys? So let me run through some numbers here. Aaron Nola's made 2 starts. He's thrown 5 innings. Ranger Suarez has made 1 start. He's thrown 3 innings. Zach Wheeler's made 1 start. It was yesterday. He threw 2 innings. He looked really darn good, by the way. Had a nasty, if you look at Pitching Ninja on Twitter, he had a nasty sinker sweeper overlay that's otherworldly. So I liked what I saw out of Zach Wheeler. Going down to Christopher Sanchez. He's made 1 start, 2 innings pitched. So Nola's made 2. All the other starters for the Philadelphia Phillies have made 1 besides Taijuan Walker, who's got some knee soreness. But why they do this is they work guys out. The thing you got to remember is spring training innings are almost not that valuable anymore because you have more guys in camp, you have more technology, you do live at-bats and simulated games. They've really fine-tuned spring training to be a well-oiled machine, and Rob Thompson is a master of that. So what that means is you might see less of pitchers in actual games, but they're getting their work in, and they're stretching out, and they're getting everything ready. Here's what you need to think about with the Philadelphia Phillies and how they handle their pitching staff and the way that you should in spring training. This is, I think, the best example I can come up with. Pitching, or baseball in general, is a marathon. And right now, what the Philadelphia Phillies are doing are they're walking up to the line to start the race, right? The race has not started yet. The regular season has not begun. The 26.2 miles are not being run yet. You are getting out of the car, getting out of the Uber or whatever that you took to the marathon, and you're walking up to the starting line. And when you talk about why hasn't this guy pitched? Why isn't this guy pitching right now? Why are they only throwing these guys 2 times so far? 5 innings for Aaron Nola so far. You're basically asking, why are they not jogging to the starting line of a marathon? If you were about to run 26.2 miles, would you be walking up to that line or would you be jogging? Because I'd be crawling. I'd be saving my legs all I could. And that's the key, right? They're trying to save them for the regular season. All this is a stretching out period. There's no question that Nola's going to make the team, or Suarez, or Wheeler, or Walker, Sanchez probably. Now that we've gotten deep enough into free agency, they're probably not going to make another big move. There's not a lot of questions about the starting rotation. You don't have to see these guys that much. It's just delivering them healthy is the key. And speaking of delivering them healthy, Taijuan Walker has some regular spring training knee soreness is what has been reported. And I haven't heard about this before from him. It didn't happen last year, but apparently he's got some knee soreness that they're just being cautious with. He's expected to start pitching, make his first start sometime early this coming week, like Monday or Tuesday of this coming week. So he will throw. I haven't heard anything about him not being ready for opening day. It shouldn't be anything to worry about, right? You should be okay as far as Taijuan Walker is concerned. Keep an eye on that, but it sounds like he showed up. He was pitching. His knee got a little sore. They're being super cautious because, like I said, you're walking up to the line to start a marathon. And they said, okay, take a week. Just let's err on the side of caution. And the regular knee soreness, as it was reported, the regular spring training knee soreness makes me feel like this is a problem he's had in the past. Maybe not with the Phillies, but he's had a long career. So probably some other time, maybe when he was with the Mets or whatever. So I wouldn't worry about Taijuan Walker until we hear any further reports. He should be pitching next week. Everyone else, they're taking it easy because they're starting a marathon. You should feel good about where the Phillies' rotation is at because this cautious approach means they're already very confident that they have pitchers they can trust in the regular season. Coming up next, as we wrap up Locked On Phillies, we're down to day number 22 in our opening day countdown. We're 22 days away from opening day. Who's the best Philly to ever wear number 22? Well, another one of those kind of underwhelming numbers, but we'll talk to you about who is the best next as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. All right, I want to tell you about my friends over at eBay Motors. All right, passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy. And it's also what keeps your vehicle alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks to exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. I just dropped the top on the convertible that I have earlier this week. Nice weather in Philadelphia. I played golf. It was beautiful. You know what that means? Summer's coming. You want your car to look good, sound good, feel good when you drive it, when you're driving down the shore or anything like that. Well, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. They got all the parts you need, the prices you want. It's easy to turn your car into the MVP. So go to ebaymotors.com. Keep your vehicle alive, looking good, running good. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's talk about our opening day countdown, and we've got to day number 22. So who's the best Philly to ever wear number 22? This is obviously a more popular number, so we got more guys to choose from. Last year, Michael Lorenzen wore this number. He threw a no-hitter wearing number 22. Does that make him the best 22 in Phillies history? Well, it worked for Tommy Green, but that number was in the 40s. No, Lorenzen isn't the best 22. He's only played half a season. Andrew McCutchen wore it from 2019 to 2021. I loved Kutch's time here. He's a former MVP with the Pittsburgh Pirates, at least, but not enough with the Philadelphia Phillies, I don't think. There are some all-time great names that wore number 22. Bake McBride, love that name. Solid player, big fan. When you go way back, Tony Gonzalez wore number 22. Not that Tony Gonzalez. He wore it for the Philadelphia Phillies back in the 60s, 1960 to 1962. And then when you get back to the old school names, there are some good ones down here. Schoolboy Rowe wore it in 1943, not to be confused with Boathouse Rowe. Dino Chioza wore it back in 1935. Snipe Hansen. Who could forget Snipe Hansen wearing number 22 for the Philadelphia Phillies back in 1932? Some all-time great old baseball names here, like shout out Tungsten Arm O'Doyle. No, the best 22 in Philadelphia Phillies history has to be Pete Incaviglia. And he was a really important part. He wore the number. The years that he wore it were 1993 and 1994. And he was a big part of that 93 team that the city fell in love with, obviously playing out there in the outfield. Something I think that's cool looking at his baseball reference page. I'll give you his stats. 10.3 WAR. He hit 206 home runs in his major league career. A power hitting left fielder, right-handed bat that really helped the Phillies out. But he wore 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 different uniforms in his career. 2 with the Phillies. He wore 22 and 9. Like he wore a bunch of different jerseys. So he's got a couple spots nailed down, maybe on some other Locked On accounts timelines. But shout out to Pete Incaviglia. And also, nobody, please don't do this. Mike Schmidt wore 22 for like one season, I guess, when he first came up with the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll see Mike Schmidt later on the list in a couple numbers. He's not the best number 22. I can't put Mike Schmidt twice. So don't get mad at me and say, hey, the best third baseman ever wore 22. Stop. Pete Incaviglia is the best number 22 in Philadelphia Phillies history, in my opinion. If you disagree, you can let me know in the comments. But excuse me. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.